Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are cracking open the case file on something, honestly, pretty wild. A highly unique piece of cinema called The Sheep Detectives. If you are someone who loves a good mystery, but you're looking for a totally fresh, engaging spin on the genre, well, you are in exactly the right place. Now, here is the big question. Can a flock of sheep actually solve a murder? I know, right? At first glance, you're probably thinking, okay, this is just going to be some cartoonish kids movie. And to be fair, that is exactly what the film wants you to think at first. It uses this completely absurd, lighthearted premise as a bit of a Trojan horse. It immediately hooks us into its cinematic investigation. It just creates this incredible curiosity right from the start. Like, how could that possibly work? Well, let's take a look at the evidence. Section 1. The mystery unfolds. So, our story centers around a guy named George. George is a shepherd, but he is definitely not your average caretaker. He looks after his flock with a tremendous amount of love. But here is the kicker, the brilliant little detail that sets the foundation for the entire movie. George actually has a daily habit of reading detective novels out loud to his sheep. He literally raises them on a strict daily diet of crime fiction and mystery solving. But then, the inciting incident happens. George mysteriously dies, and what happens next? Well, the human police investigation completely stalls out. It slows down to an absolute crawl. And that creates this massive vacuum, right? Someone needs to find out the truth behind their beloved owner's tragic death, and the humans just aren't getting the job done. So who steps up? The sheep. Because they've basically grown up listening to George's detective stories, they use that exact knowledge to investigate the murder themselves. And what makes this so incredibly engaging is how the film treats the audience. As the sheep uncover clues, those clues are shared directly with us, the viewers. You don't just passively watch this movie. You actually become an active part of solving the case. It is a remarkably unique experience for mystery fans. Moving on to Section 2, Comedy Meets Deep Emotions. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between our expectations and the reality of the film. We go in fully expecting this silly, lighthearted family comedy, and for the first few minutes, it absolutely lives in that zone. But the reality? It's actually quite different. As the story progresses, the director handles the material with incredible sincerity. It shifts into this deeply earnest exploration of grief and loneliness and relationships. And honestly, that tonal shift from goofy to emotionally profound works beautifully. It gives the film so much surprising depth. And the reason this emotional weight actually lands is because of the characters themselves. Every single sheep is given a distinct, really enjoyable personality. You might have one who's highly observant, while another is deeply logical. And because they are so well defined with these specific traits and quirks, when they sit around discussing clues and trying to connect the dots of the mystery, it never feels forced. Their deductive teamwork just feels completely natural, and it's incredibly engaging to watch. All right, Section 3, Reviving the Animal Genre. If you grew up watching movies like Stuart Little or Dr. Dolittle, you know that in those classics, the animals are the central driving characters, while the humans kind of take a back seat. The entire focus of that setup is to generate genuine, heartfelt emotion. We've definitely seen less of that specific kind of magic in recent years, but The Sheep Detectives brilliantly steps in to revive this dormant genre, tapping right back into that nostalgic feeling. Which brings us to Section 4, Visuals and Technical Brilliance. We absolutely have to talk about the technical evidence here, because the triumphs are really worth noting. The visuals are wonderfully warm and colorful, which just perfectly matches the tone. And the CGI, it is mind-blowingly detailed. The sheep never feel artificial, which is absolutely critical for keeping us emotionally invested. Add to that a totally cozy background score that supports the film's atmosphere perfectly. During the heavier, emotional scenes, the music drops back and becomes wonderfully subtle. It is a 100% commitment to keeping the viewer entirely locked into the vibe of the story. And this brilliantly illustrates another amazing point. Hugh Jackman actually voices George the Shepherd. And even though his screen time is relatively short, his presence works like absolute magic. He basically casts a spell over the entire movie, and you feel it lingering long after his scenes are over. Okay, time for Section 5, the final verdict. So let's impartially weigh the evidence here and balance what works with where the film might stumble just a bit. On the pros side, you have this completely wholesome blend of mystery, comedy, and deep emotion. It just creates a very calm, memorable vibe that stays with you until the very end. However, looking fairly at the cons, it's not totally flawless. If you are a regular viewer of mystery films, you might find some of the twists just a bit predictable. Plus, some of the supporting human characters feel like they could have been explored a little more deeply. But overall, the evidence heavily points to a very strong recommendation. This is an absolutely fantastic watch, especially for family audiences, mystery lovers, or honestly anyone who just wants a genuinely feel-good movie. It is a completely fun experience. And for those of you wondering where to start your own viewing investigation, it is currently available to stream in English on Prime Video. So I'll leave you with this final question. Will you investigate this wholesome mystery for yourself, or have you already cracked the case? Let the clues we've laid out today guide you, and dive into a film that proves, hey, sometimes the best detectives have hooves. Keep questioning, keep learning, and enjoy the investigation.